It is time to get a little zen with DeAnna Houston. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time today. And I'd love to find out a little bit about your specialties because while you are a yoga instructor, you like to specialize with a certain type of woman. Is that correct?
Yes. So the people that I help support are those on a fertility journey through pregnancy, postpartum, and then also through motherhood.
And what made you decide or lean to this special demographic?
I feel like it's the classic journey. Everybody always chooses something that impacted their own experience. So a little bit of information. I went on my own fertility journey. It took me about 4 years to get pregnant. And I knew based on that time that there was such a need to support people beyond just the medical component of it, supporting them in the emotional support as well as even nervous system support. And so, because I went through that, I knew that eventually down the road, I would love to help people. Same to be said through pregnancy and postpartum. They're not an easy time in people's lives. And so, I wanted to be able to support those people just beyond the poses, though. So, I mean, there's a component that I help with the nervous system and breath work and helping people just be more in their bodies. Such a time of our lives where we can feel a little alone. So, having a support team can always be really helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you've got everything is going on emotionally, hormonally, your body's changing and morphing. And I think you'd be a wonderful partner in that journey to help work from mind and to through the body during these crazy time, in a woman where whether you're pregnant now and that 9 months or 10 months is just kind of topsy turvy to after giving birth, I know it would be a great time to have that realigning, I guess.
Right, very well said. Yeah, I think also, as I said about the loneliness component of it, I think sometimes when we're on these journeys, we don't even know where to turn or who to help us. And there's these obvious places in which can help us. Like I said earlier, the medical component of it. I remember going on my fertility journey. I was talking to the nurse at Shady Girl Fertility, and I was asking her questions about the doctor. And I was like, all right, this guy, though's not going to give me a hug, right? He's not going to help me calm down. I just want to understand that that's not who he is, and I need to find other people for that. And I mean, she agreed. She said, yeah, I mean, when you're on these journeys, you need to find sometimes emotional support or nervous system support. So, yeah,
Yeah.
finding a team I think is always helpful.
So, were you, while you were trying to get pregnant for those 4 years, were you already doing yoga and then you just kind of said, you know what, I think this is something that can be expanded?
Yeah, so I've been doing yoga for almost 20 years. And what then happened as I was on my own motherhood journey, I started getting certifications in fertility yoga as well as prenatal, postpartum yoga. I have pelvic floor certification and trauma training I have as well, just to support the whole package of what people go through.
Wow, that's excellent. I didn't even know all of those certifications existed, but
Right.
it's kind of
Yeah.
nice to know that you kind of literally from start to finish, you can help somebody. Taking it aside from what most of us may know as regular yoga, what do you add into it with those certifications or those, targets?
That's, I think, a really excellent question because there is specific components in which support people during each phase. I'll kind of just go down the line. An example, fertility, there are specific poses you do before you ovulate versus after. If it's a medicated cycle versus non-medicated, there are specific things that we want to do to support the body in preparing for hopefully a pregnancy. Same to be said for pregnancy. You need modifications. You don't do a lot of ab work anymore. You're trying to do a little bit of strengthening because you're a little bit looser with the hormones inside. And then postpartum, same thing. You need a lot of modifications. Your abs could have separated. You could have tearing, etc. And so a general yoga class is lovely, but sometimes it may not support specifically what you need.
That's so interesting, actually. It makes a ton of sense when you actually think about it. If you've had a
Right.
kid, you know all of the loosening of your ligaments and everything else that happens before and during, and then certainly after you've given birth. So that's wonderful. You were talking earlier to me that outside of just the yoga itself, some of what you do provides support in other ways. What else do you got kind of offer somebody so that it is really truly the whole package?
Well, I always, before I work with someone, figure out what their goals are. And on average, most people want help physically and then emotionally, or even sometimes we go spiritually, depending on the person. And so, what I described earlier was kind of like the physical part of support, but then the emotional part is we get really triggered in our nervous systems when we're going through fertility challenges. There is grief associated with that. With pregnancy, our hormones affect our emotions. Our nervous system, again, can be in flux. We can be triggered. Of course, postpartum, we're also really extra sensitive. And so, things that I can do, I'm trained in breath work that helps. There's scientific data that shows it can regulate our nervous systems. Breath work can also help with the resilience of the nervous system. I used to be a person who got really triggered very easily, and I have worked really hard with breath work and somatic experiencing to be able to then make my nervous system a little bit more resilient. I get less triggered than I used to. And so there's a lot of data that supports if your nervous system is also calmer, you're not in fight or flight, you are more likely to get pregnant than if you are in these stages of fight or flight. So I kind of help with that fight or flight, getting people out of it, people identifying when they're in it, and then tools for helping them cope. One of the big things I always try to do is have people really capable of helping themselves so that they work with me for a little bit, but then they're on their own. They learn their triggers. They learn how to calm themselves. They learn what happens when they have grief, what it feels like. When they're anxious, their muscles.
Right.
So they're able to identify themselves and then hopefully go out on their own and take care of themselves.
Well, that's what I love about that whole thing is that you actually, instead of saying, you got to come back every week or three times a
Right.
week so I can help you, it's more about giving people the tools to help themselves to have a very calming and good life beyond, which I love that.
Right. I mean, all of us should have learned tools for regulating our nervous system in school. That was just not something, and it's an
Yeah.
important part. We're all triggered all day long. We should know
Right.
how to get ourselves out of it.
So, outside of women either trying to, having already, or post birth, are these classes or things that you do one on one or groups or both?
Both. So I'm actually sitting right now. I teach virtual yoga. Sometimes people in different areas want to work with me, and so I'm able to do virtual yoga with them. I record it, then they can do it over and over again. That's a way to work with me one on one. I have gone to people's houses in the Frederick area, or they come to my studio. And then I do offer group classes as well. And then I also have an additional support of women's circles. I do that monthly, and then women's retreats periodically through the year as well.
That is so convenient. I mean, pretty much you can't find an excuse why you
Right.
can't access the information and teachings from you. And the fact that you've been doing it a long time and through your own journeys have found things that have worked. So you're speaking from experience, in the sense that, hey, I know I was like this and now I'm like this, or I know because I experienced. What is one thing you would want everyone in Frederick to know about you and this yoga to help? If they were to come away with one thing, what would that be?
I think the main thing, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is that we all can turn inward. We can all get clarity. We can all learn about ourselves more. And the more information we do have about ourselves, the better we can help our lives beyond motherhood, whether it's just, like I said, whether you're triggered or even anxious about a work meeting, whatever that might be. It's all your nervous system that's feeling that way. I think another thing too is I offer free consultations. So when a person gets on a consultation with me, they tell me what's happening. I tell them more about myself because in order for people to be able to work with me, they need to feel safe. And so I love explaining who I am to make sure we're a good fit for one another. And then I help to develop a plan. As I said earlier, some people are really spiritual. They want to talk about their guides and energy work, and I can go there. And then some other people, I've had attorneys that I've worked with that are like, just do the physical part, stay there. I'm not going further. And so I can reach whatever people want, whatever support they need.
Yeah. And that's great too, because there are, again, everybody's different and they're at a different space in their life and they want something different from you. So, where can people find you? What's the easiest way if they wanted to set up a consultation?
You can go to my website, DeAnnaHouston.com, and then I have a contact me tab on my website. Also, sometimes people contact me on Instagram as well. I'm just Deanna at Deanna Houston Yoga.
That's awesome. Well, look, we appreciate the time that you took with us today. I think what you're doing is really fascinating because I think the more that people can find the resources they need as they're going through whatever journey they are, that's a great thing. And, I think sometimes, like you say, in combination with what you're getting medically, sometimes these things can give you what you need to get through that particular journey at the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.